The game Pyre by Supergiant Games is rich with occult symbolism and themes that might easily go unnoticed by players. Today, we'll delve into these hidden elements to shed light on the deeper meanings within the game. Let's get started. The game begins in an unknown land. A wagon drives into view and a band of characters greet the reader. This reader is you, and it is revealed that you were banished to an underground land known as the Downside. Along with your banishment, you bring your knowledge of reading. This is similar to Gnosticism, and your character acts as a Sophia for the group, but we'll cover that more shortly. Your character plays a crucial role in the game, as you are one of the only characters who is able to read. This forbidden knowledge allows you to access a book known as the Book of Rites. Upon reading it, it swiftly transports you to an arena where the rites are explained. The reader is the only character that can read these texts, and it's revealed that it was made illegal by the government on the surface world. But, interestingly enough, the reader also seems to be knowledgeable in astrology, and can read and interpret the stars and constellations above, allowing them to guide the reader to the location of the next rite. The reader may also invoke certain constellations of stars for a greater challenge in return for an enlightenment boost. The downside is the underworld and acts as a desolate prison world compared to the surface, in which the inhabitants would be banished to if one were convicted of something deemed illegal. It is a world in which no one would return, banished for the remainder of their days, left to wonder and reflect on their actions until their demise. People were said to try to return, but it was deemed impossible. There was said to be only one way of ever returning from the downside. This downside also shares striking similarities with Gnostic teachings as a prison world or material world that cannot be escaped unless one has the knowledge to. This knowledge, however, could be gained through games known as the Rites. The voice in Pyre is a voice that speaks to you from the moment you open the Book of Rites. It acts sort of like a narrator in the Rites, sometimes giving you basic information or instruction. As the game progresses, it mainly sets out to taunt you and your party. It is later revealed that the voice was a former member of your group and was the reader before you, and when he was liberated, he became the Grand Judge of the Commonwealth and its rights in the downside. The rites were created by the 8 scribes as a form of ritual between two opposing parties of Triumvirates. These rites are carried out ritualistically with a set of rules that must be followed. There would be an arena with each side consisting of a pyre placed above the represented group's sigil. Each group were to don their respective robes and masks, said to represent the 8 scribes. The words, "The 8 scribes gave their freedom so that we may yet have ours," are to be spoken, and once this is done, the heavens are said to respond. This response is a delivery of a celestial orb that is placed in the center of the arena, and the two groups would then attempt to douse the other's flame by either throwing the orb into it or plunging themselves into it while holding the orb, temporarily banishing themselves from the rite for a round. The victor would be the team left standing with their pyre still lit. There is a handful of liberation rites where participants must prove themselves worthy enough for redemption from their exile. If successful in your rite, this will be the outcome and they shall return to the upper world. Failure, however, allows the opposing team's chosen victor to return instead. A thing I noticed was a character in the game named Ruki, once plunged into the pyre, does an Ouroboros animation, which can represent the constant cycle of life and death, but more importantly can represent self-reflection and the journey of understanding oneself, which ties us into our next segment. After a rite is finished, those who took place in the rite gain Enlightenment. A small amount of Enlightenment is given to those who did not participate. This enlightenment, once enough is accumulated, is then used as a means to unlock special powers in the rites. Blessed by the 8 scribes, the characters are given a choice of a mystical blessing that allows them to gain advantages permanently once acquired. This enlightenment is represented differently outside of the rites, and is instead tied to the character's own stories. Each character has a reason why they were exiled. Once the characters face these reasons and accept them for what they are, only then do they become worthy of ascension to the surface world. Pyre's story is heavily based on Gnostic teachings. Gnosticism, for those unfamiliar, is a philosophical and religious tradition that portrays the material world as a flawed or prison-like creation of a lesser deity called the Demiurge. This Demiurge is often seen as a flawed or malevolent creator who traps human souls in the material world. According to Gnostic belief, salvation comes through gnosis, or esoteric knowledge, which is often brought by a divine figure. In Gnosticism, Sophia, a divine emanation from the true transcendent realm known as the Pleroma, descends to the material world to impart this knowledge, helping souls escape their imprisonment and return to the higher spiritual realm. In Pyre's story, the role of the downside would take the spot of the prison world or material world. Those cast down into it find themselves unable to leave its inhospitable lands. But with the help of Sophia and the knowledge they hold, it makes it possible for one to transcend it, back to the Pleroma, which in this case would be the Commonwealth or surface world. As for the Sophia of the story, that would fall down to you, the reader. You come from the world above, and you bring with you the forbidden knowledge of reading. You can interpret the stars and read the Book of Rites, an ability that no one else possesses, and an ability sought after by your exiles, for it unlocks the means for their escape through your teachings and the rites. This allows others to be enlightened and transcend back to the real world, but this is only possible through you. As for the Demiurge, that would be the Voice, or Archjustice Androbeles, as he is the one who rules over the Commonwealth and the rites. He is the reason you and all the other exiles were banished, and the one who holds a tight grip around the Commonwealth and its laws. There are 10 main Triumvirate groups, each are battling for their own freedom in the rites, just as you are. The groups were created by the 8 scribes, and each group would embody the respective scribes' ideals. Each group has a sigil, and most of the symbols on each one has some form of meaning. For example, the accuser's sigil is of a golden scale. The scale represents justice and balance, and is also a symbol of duality of opposing forces, such as good and evil, light and dark. This group acts that way, usually talking about the fairness of the rites and the justice the leader seeks. The Fate's sigil is of 3 eyes interconnected. Eyes usually represent insight, reason, and spiritual awareness. The Fate, a respectful group, upholding the rites and traditions, often speaking about their destiny and how they believe their path is preordained by the 8 scribes in which they accept. The Beyonder's sigil is a pentacle. It is commonly used in witchcraft, representing the divine feminine. These symbols are said to be magical and used in rituals. In the case of the game, you enter a rite, and on completion of the rite, the leader of the Beyonders, Sandra, bestows you a magical talisman. These are just some examples of the sigils shown throughout the game, but I'll post the rest of the sigils on screen so you can see them for yourself. The last thing I have to talk about is the use of talismans in the game. Talismans are items that are said to have religious or magical powers and are used to protect, heal, or harm individuals. They are used in game to give characters abilities in the rites. They are spoken about as something to remind you of your faith, power, and potential, and can be used by anyone to get their power. Special talismans can be received by completing a personal rite when summoned by the Beyonders, with its successful completion of the ritual awarding a talisman that once belonged to the 8 scribes to the character. I want to thank all of you once again for joining me as we uncover these occult themes in games. I hope you find these videos enlightening, or at least I hope it gives you some form of understanding into what you're seeing. If you do find these videos helpful, I'd love to hear what you have to say down below. Thank you again for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, take care and goodbye.